We're going to kick off today. Thank you everyone again for your patience as we navigated through those technical difficulties. My name is Rosie Hazel. My pronouns are they, them. I'm sure many of you have spoken to me via email before, but I'm one of the festival officers here at Merri-bek City Council, and I'll be sort of steering the ship as we move through today's briefing.
Hello?
Everyone hear me okay? Apparently there's some echoing happening from my end.
Yep, I can see.
Wonderful. All right, perfect.
Next
slide. Yes, can hear you. Thank you. Next slide, please. So we are recording this webinar, and this is for those that have been unable to attend today. It's also for yourselves to be able to refer back to all the information that we've discussed in today's briefing. So just a little heads up that this is being recorded. So I'd like to start with our acknowledgement of country. So we acknowledge the Wurundjeri Wurrung people as the traditional owners and custodians of the lands and waterways in the area currently known as Merri-bek. We acknowledge their continuous connection to culture, community and country, and embrace their traditional and contemporary cultural and creative expression. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and to all First Nation people who are part of our community and who are part of this call today. So the Sydney Road Street Party team is made up of many people that you're going to hear from probably tonight as well. So we have our executive producer, Naretha Williams, who's unfortunately unable to make today's call. So I'm stepping in on behalf. And we have myself. I've introduced myself. My name is Rosie Hazel, I said, as Festivals Officer here at Merri-bek. We have Fred as well, who's one of our festival officers who's on the call today. Will be helping with all of the technical and questions we have in the chat. We have the Festivals and Permit Officer, Deanna, who is probably you've spoken to as well many a time by email, who does a fantastic job at managing all of the admin for Sydney Road. We also have our production manager, Kelly Harrington, who's on the call as well. We have our stallholder manager, Tennille, as well, who's here. We have David Smith, who is not on the call today, but is our operations manager, who deals with all of our technical and logistics on the ground. We have our risk and safety consultant, Emily O'Brien, and we also have our environmental health officer, Elizabeth Pudney. Right. So just a brief event overview. So Sydney Road Street Party officially kicks off the Brunswick Music Festival. It is held annually by Merri-bek City Council. It is a free one-day street festival event for the community along Sydney Road and Merri-bek's biggest community festival. The event attracts upwards of 50,000 people who fill Sydney Road from Brunswick Road to Victoria Street for a day of music, performances, food and culture that puts the cornucopia of Merri-bek's diversity front and centre. So the event is on Sunday, the 1st of March, and it goes from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. Oh, sorry, I'm just jumping in. There's a bit of an echo.
You sound good to me.
Good, okay. So the event precinct is from Brunswick Road to Victoria Street in the north. We have 4 live music stages managed by Merri-bek City Council. We're activating Michelle Guglielmo Park with Park DJs. That's 260 Sydney Road, the beautifully new opened park. We have 2 street performance spaces across the event precinct. We have 1 roving street performance. We have a skate jam activity that's happening at Wilson's Ave. We have approximately 150 artisan stalls and food vendors. We have 8 venues with programmed performances and music. And as per 2025, we have no street bars and there are no red line extensions for existing bars and cafes. So for this year, the program is now live. The program went live on the 21st of January 2026. So I really encourage you all to have a look through the program. And we also have shared recently this street poster for all of our stallholders to share on their social media if you wish to do so. We just kindly ask that you don't make any amendments to that PDF file and just share as is. Thank you everyone for listening to me chat. I'll now hand over to Kelly and Tennille to talk through all things production, operations and traffic management.
Thanks, Rosie. As Rosie mentioned before, we're a team of 3 plus the rest of our team that will be on site on the 1st of March. And really most of the people on this call will be dealing with Tennille. But as far as the site is concerned, we are operating in 5 zones. So we can go to the site plan slide. Yep. So we're operating in, for those who've been involved before, again, the same 5 areas. For those who haven't, so we start from Victoria Street and we work our way down to Brunswick Road. So area 1 is Victoria Street to Albert Street. Area 2 is Albert Street to the Retreat Hotel. Area 3 is the Retreat to Glenlyon to Merri Street, and then Area 4 is Merri Street to Western, and then Area 5 is Western to Brunswick Road. Next slide. During the bump-in, as mentioned, so David and myself will be doing a split shift. Effectively, we're on site from midnight to midnight with the road closures and the setup and the pack-up. And then your stall manager is Tennille, who most of you have spoken to. During the bump-in, the environmental health officer will be on site, as will our security guards, which will have a number of them involved from bump-in. We'll increase those numbers during the event, and then we drop those numbers back down for bump-out. We'll have our stalls coordinators, which work in the 5 zones. So you'll be familiar with those people at bump-in because they'll be the same people coming back for bump-out. And then we'll have some site crew on the event as well, doing various jobs throughout the day. During the event, so once we're set up, we hand over to Merri-bek to run the event. So they have their chief warden, they'll have their deputy warden, there'll be an overlay of area wardens. So we'll have representation in each area, kind of checking in with you each day, throughout the event. We'll have security and we'll have our site crew, first aid, and we'll also have a stallholder contact that will be working during the event, along with obviously our event control running with Em and her team as well. Next slide. The road is closed, so we will be closing that road initially from 2 a.m, which we're calling phase 1. In that phase, we're calling that's our bump-in phase. So we'll be setting up all the marquees, generators, staging, all of the infrastructure ahead of your arrival. Phase 2 is stallholder bump-in. So effectively we have the site set or marked out ready for your arrival, which is from 7 till 11. The event runs from 12 until 6, and then we start bump out from 6 to 8 for stalls. And then we go into the 3rd phase of our production bump out, which is removal of all the infrastructure from 8 until midnight. Next slide. The services across the event, we will have first aid. So we'll have a static first aid post that you can present to at any point during the event at the Brunswick Mechanics Institute. We'll also have 2 roving response teams. They'll be basically working half the site each, roving, responding to anything that comes up. If you do find yourself needing first aid, just notify any staff member. That can be any one of us, site crew, stallholder coordinators, security, really anyone. We all have radios and we're reporting back into the EC, and we can deploy first aid to where you need it. In emergency, please call 000. Don't wait. But if you can just let an event staff member know that you've done that as soon as possible, and then we'll start coordinating the response from there. There are first aid kits on site, but obviously we're strongly encourage, and it's part of your plan, that especially food vendors should have their own basic first aid kit. And yeah, just making sure you've got things like band-aids and just sort of, you know, the basics covered. As mentioned, security will be on site. Their main role during bump-in is asset protection and vehicle and pedestrian safety. Obviously, keeping in mind, even though the road's closed, we are in a public space, and with stallholder vehicles and supplier vehicles moving around, security or keeping an eye on that crossover as far as the vehicles and pedestrians. Once we clear all vehicles off site and we're in event mode, security act as crowd control and access control. And then again, for bump out, we move back into sort of the vehicle and pedestrian crossover. Next slide. I will hand over to Tennille.
Thanks, Kel. Hello, everyone. I've been in touch with most of you at some point, and obviously know you from previous years if you've been to Sydney Road Street Party before. So yes, I'm Tennille, your stallholder coordinator. My details will be shared at the end, so if anybody doesn't have them, they will be there ready for you if you need to contact me. So we start with bump-in. As Kel said, obviously production bump-in happens before any stallholders arrive. So 7 o'clock, first of all, you will be sent a document in the coming weeks, which will give you your stall allocation. With that email will be quite a bit of information about the bump-in and arriving via a certain entry point. So we have either a north or south entry. We do only enter from Sydney Road. So it's onto Sydney Road, sorry. So either off Victoria Street or Brunswick Road. No side streets are utilised for bump-in. So in that document you'll be sent either a north or a south entry point. Please ensure that you do enter from that point. You'll be given a car pass on arrival, and if you don't enter from the right entry point, your car pass won't be available. So yeah, please do ensure that you check which entry we ask. There's a bit of a process to decide on who comes in which entry. It will have to do with where you're located, what side of the road, if you're a food vendor, obviously trading sides and things like that. So yeah, so watch out for that email. What will come with that is your specific site allocation, as well as the area map for your particular area that you're going to be located in. What I will also send is that very detailed site plan that was shown just earlier, with all 5 areas on it. So this will allow you to see closest toilets to you, water points, etc. So a bit of feedback from last year was that it would be good to know where everything else is located. So we will be sending you that full site map as well with all 5 areas. So yeah, as I said, car passes will be provided on arrival, and you'll be directed to your specific area where a stallholder manager will meet you and let you know where specifically your site is. The sites will be marked on the side of the roads with your specific site number. So yeah, keep an eye out for that, but there is stall managers that will be around for that. If you do have a different vehicle that you are going to be bumping out in, again, please let the person know so that they can give you an extra car entry pass, because without that you won't be permitted in for bump out. And yeah, just all vehicles must be off site by 11. So please ensure you come in, get everything off your car, that you trailer or whatever you need to, obviously unless you're a food truck. And then we do ask that all vehicles are off site by 11 o'clock, because we do start to get a bit of pedestrian traffic, and just try to keep everyone safe. So if we can go to next slide. During the event, obviously it is a 6-hour event, so we do expect that you trade for the entire duration. It's not a good look for stallholders to be packing up partway during an event, so we do ask that you have enough stock and do remain open for the duration of the event. And if there is any reason that you can't attend last minute, please let us know as soon as you can. My mobile number is there, which you can ring, but obviously leading up to the event, email is probably the best, but any last minute stuff, please don't hesitate to give my mobile a call. Next slide. Okay, so we've all had a wonderful trading event and had a wonderful time, and it's time for bump out. We will go through with just requests specifically for food vendors to stop trading, stop their lines if there's any lines forming and things like that. So we do have very strict rules about reopening the roads, and for anybody that has done this event in the past, it is a bit of a challenge to get everybody off the road so that we can pack up and get vehicles in, marquees removed, all that sort of thing. So we do ask that you stop trading at 6 o'clock and begin packing up straight away. There is no vehicles to be permitted on site until we get clearance from the EC. So yeah, we just ask that you pack up everything as much as you can without your vehicle, and then as soon as we get clearance, we know that you want to pack up and get home, so we will do that as soon as possible, but we need to make sure that the site is safe. So again, we do ask that you use that same entry point, whether it's the north entry or the south entry. None of the side streets will be open for that entry into bump out. We will open side streets as the site clears, to let vehicles out once you've collected all your stock and all your infrastructure. So but you need to be directed by one of the site crew that will be present and communicating with you the whole time. So as I'm sure you're all very au fait with, we travel at slow walking pace, hazards on. We do ask that you have a spotter. We try to spot several vehicles at the same time. So yeah, so just sort of try to be aware of the site crew that is around, and yeah, take direction from them, and just be patient whilst we try to get everybody out safely. Anybody that has hired equipment, we do ask that it's ready for collection by 8 o'clock. Again, with the road needing to reopen, trams needing to come through, etc. by midnight, we do have pretty strict timelines. So we need marquee companies to come in and start packing down marquees. So anybody that does have hire marquees, please ensure that they are clear by 8 p.m. so that we can get that get those suppliers in and start packing down. So that's it. Yep. And on marquees, there are many of you that have chosen to hire marquees this year. So I think that's a nice, easy process for a lot of you. We've got the required weights and engineered marquees and engineer approved marquees, sorry. So food vendors, you can see there the requirements that you have. If you are an artisan or community stall, then it's a little bit, obviously you can have the no sides there. With any food vendors with gas, obviously you need to have that 2 sides open for any gas appliances if you have any gas appliances. So just again, and then I think the next slide is with weights. We have really strict rules regarding the weights. So please ensure that you have the minimum weights required of 40 kilos per leg. It is a safety issue, and we do have some pretty strict rules that that we need to adhere to. So for 3x3 marquees, 40 kilos per leg, or 65 kilos per leg for any BYO 3x6 metre marquees. They need to be correctly attached. If there is anybody that realizes they don't have the correct weights, please contact me. We do not have access to very many extra weights. It's a very busy weekend, or number of weekends in Melbourne with lots of different events. So marquee companies are pretty stretched with their availability of marquees and weights and things. But please do let me know if you think that there is an issue with your weights, and we'll see what we can do. So there's the festivals team email there. So yeah, please let us know. Similar with power, anybody that is requiring power, which is available to food and beverage vendors only, we do want to make sure that you've got the correct power. The document that gets sent through in the coming weeks will have your allocated power that you've paid for, that you've requested and paid for. Please check over that and make sure that it is sufficient. We do obviously get generators on site that only have the power that's requested and that's paid for. So if you think there is an issue with your power, again, please touch base, because if you draw more power than you've paid for or requested, it will short circuit the systems and then put everyone out. So again, generators are not permitted without any prior approval, and it's only for those that are housed internally within food trucks and trailers that are permitted. We can't have any generators just on the road beside a marquee or a food truck. So any issues, yeah, please do let me know. Similar with cool rooms and storage, we have a site that is we obviously have Sydney Road traders that are open and that are wanting to be part of the event. I know a number of you will be on the call today, so we take all requests for those sites to be available, the frontage of those stores to be available. So we don't have space. Even if you look at the site plan when you get it and see that there's a space next to you, it doesn't mean that that's a space available for anything such as a cool room or any other structure. So please do not bring anything other than what contains within your food truck or trailer or your 3x3 or 6x3 meter marquee, because yeah, as I said, just because there might be a space next to you, it doesn't mean that it's actually an available space. So and again, with the toilet and water positions, feedback from last year was that stallholders weren't exactly aware of where those facilities and amenities might be. So I will be providing that full site plan, so you'll be able to see exactly where the toilets and water positions are located. And again, we do ask, and this will be brought up later in the presentation, but there is no single-use plastic on site. So there's to be no plastic drinks sold, but also please bring your own water vessels that you need to fill up to make sure you are hydrated for the day. That's it from me. So yeah, as I said, my email will be at the end of the presentation, I believe. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any queries or concerns, similar with the festival's website. So I will hand over to Emily.
Amazing. Thanks, Tennille. I think I will be covering a few things. So I'll skip over very quickly any of the bits where Tennille has beautifully covered, particularly things like weighting and that kind of thing. So we're looking at a very similar event in terms of sort of the risk and safety profile of this year's Sydney Road Street Party. So there won't be any extensions to red lines or alcohol capacity for service at all of the licensed premises that exist along Sydney Road. They'll operate as they regularly do with their existing red lines and alcoholic offerings. We will again focus on making sure that any sort of off licenses, supermarkets, bottle shops are across the fact that it is an alcohol-free precinct. We're seeing across pretty much all of the major public events, particularly family-friendly ones this summer, as has been the case for the last couple of years, that there is a significant attendance, particularly if the weather is decent, of families for events that are low cost in terms of their offerings. So yes, one thing I would encourage all of you to consider is when preparing your menus for the day, whether you've got a fantastic little low-cost offering for families, that will definitely see your sales tick up on the day. But yes, we're expecting somewhere between 40 and 50,000 people to attend if the weather is good weather on the day. We'll be monitoring said weather in the ECC. We utilise our own real-time sort of weather monitoring systems and have a forecaster on call should we need to determine any particular activities according to that. The ECC is located upstairs at the Brunswick Town Hall, where it's been for the last couple of years. We'll obviously have Merri-bek representatives in there, representatives from Cal & Co, myself sitting in the ECC as the emergency manager, and we'll have liaisons from our traffic provider, our security provider, first aid, and also emergency services to ensure that we can have a really consolidated approach to any particular incidents that might occur on the day. It's really important that everyone is operating in a really safe way. There's a lot of eyes. We've often got the general public still moving through areas where we're setting up stalls during the course of the morning particularly. So we'd ask that everybody work with us to ensure that you're operating in a really safe way, that you're engaging in good housekeeping and keeping your sort of area tidy as you're setting up, that if there are particular hazards or things that you notice while you're setting up, that you draw either your stallholder liaison or the area warden for your area, draw it to their attention so that it can be rectified. Sometimes we'll have things like bins or waste that has been left on the street or other infrastructure, as well as obviously there's a lot of power and that sort of stuff going on. So we'd ask that you draw our attention to that if there's anything that you notice. Ensuring that we're complying with sort of the safety regulations or the requirements that are outlined in your stallholder packs that you will receive, as well as sort of standard operational safety requirements for major events. If we need to respond to an incident or a significant emergency, we'd ask for your assistance in that, and obviously restarting, cross fingers, if we have had a significant incident, particularly in a sort of an isolated area, our process of recommencing trade and activity in that area once it's resolved. We have an OHS policy that is in place. Obviously, Merri-bek has a very large overarching OHS policy for the council, but we have a specific event one that's included in our safety plan. The really key element of that is communication, is letting us know if there's things that are a hazard, a small incident has occurred. As long as you and your teams are able to communicate to us any issues, we can ensure that those are resolved. And also, sometimes it might be things that can't necessarily be fully resolved, things that are just making your day, your setup and your trading a little bit tricky. Those are the kind of things that it's really useful for us to know so that we can take that into account for the following year and include in our preparedness and our planning. So make sure that you draw those things to the attention of your stallholder liaison or area warden. The area warden or the liaison can log various issues and incidents via our safety portal. That will all go directly to the ECC so that anything that requires immediate resolution can be resolved or addressed or isolated, and issues that might sort of be something that we just take on note for the following year. We make sure that everything is in our log so that we don't forget anything after a very busy event day. So we're looking at things that are, you know, obviously serious, something that is an incident, an accident, something that's involved a person, any sort of dangerous occurrence like a vehicle collision with a structure, a near miss, so something might have fallen over and managed to not hit anybody, but it's useful for us to know that it fell in the first place. Any sort of operational details, things that you've noticed, like you had to wait for a really long time to come in at your entry point, or you couldn't find or easily access a person that you needed to access on site. All of that sort of information is really helpful for us to have. Any kind of concerns, or if you have communications that come to you from the public or from a stakeholder, a nearby retail trader like an existing premises, all of that can sort of be fed through to the ECC via the liaison or the area warden. Obviously, fire is a really big one for us. Oftentimes, unfortunately, on major event sites, it is often temporary stalls and food traders where we see the most minor fires. So I'm trusting that all of you will be very prepared for this. But should you have any fire within your structure, be that a marquee structure or a food van or truck, it's really important to get control of it immediately. If it is something that can be easily controlled, for example, a grease fire that can have a fire blanket thrown over it or a foam extinguisher sprayed across the top of it, fantastic. We invite you to try and manage that fire to the extent of your capacity and willingness and your safety feeling. Obviously, if you are at threat, do not stay in to try and fight the fire. Remove yourself from the the level of threat. If you are in a structure like a food van or truck, trying to shut the door and shut the awning if you can, because oxygen obviously will feed that fire. It's really important to call 000 for any scale of fire. If you have any kind of fire within your structure or vehicle, call 000 immediately, and then immediately, whether it's sending a runner or calling through to the ECC, notify us as soon as is possible. We'll obviously have the capacity to ensure that a fire appliance can get into the site. The reason that I say this is because oftentimes, even if it is a fire that is immediately extinguished, sometimes tiny sparks and things can get up into exhaust systems and other places that can then fester there and create a bigger fire later on. So it's really important that if there's any kind of fire on site, that we know that it's occurred, even if you've managed to control it. Obviously, those situations can be really stressful, and we want to make sure that we also support you through the aftermath of that, should it occur. Familiarise yourselves with the extinguishers that you have in your structure or vehicle. Make sure that you are comfortable with operating a fire extinguisher. Usually we use the PASS kind of acronym, which is to pull the pin out of the top of the extinguisher, aim at the base or the side of the fire, squeeze the little handle and sweep the nozzle back and forth across the fire. And that will either provide dry chemical or wet foam, wet chemical, to manage that fire. You can also use a fire blanket. This is one of the reasons that I'm always like, make sure your fire blanket is installed on the wall or hung in a place where you can pull it down and throw it over the fire. That's really important. As I was just saying, we expect that anybody who is operating electrical equipment within their vehicle should have at minimum a 4.5 kilogram ABE extinguisher. That's the dry chemical, or the red one with a little white band around it. If you've got gas cooking and particularly a few fryer cooking, if you've got fryer oil, things like chips and donuts, that sort of thing, we would expect you to have a fire blanket, but B, a wet chemical extinguisher as well, a class F extinguisher. That is a little nice table of the various kinds of extinguishers available to you in your guide should you need it. As I was just saying, really important that your fire extinguisher is mounted. A fire extinguisher and a fire blanket that are hidden down the back of a cupboard behind a box of rolls is not going to help you when your fryer is on fire. So please do make sure that your extinguisher and your fire blanket are installed correctly and accessible. They also must be in tag. Fire extinguishers and blankets do need to be frequently checked. They need to be checked at least every year. So make sure that you have a currently operable fire extinguisher and blanket. For those of you who might be installing signage, awnings, other components of your stalls, WorkSafe have cast a really close eye on this in the last couple of years, and they may turn up on site on the day. It's really important that you not have just a tiny little two-step step ladder that doesn't surround you. We expect to see only platform ladders on the site. So like this beautiful picture that I've included here, a platform ladder that has a flat surface to stand on and a rail to be able to lean your body against. That means that people can hand you up signage, a flag, whatever you need to install, a bit of lighting, a menu, ensuring that you're operating with always 3 points of contact, be that your body and your 2 feet, so your hands can be free to do an activity, or your 2 hands and your feet as you're climbing up and down the ladder. Structure safety is really important. As Tennille and Kel was saying, I think a number of you have structures supplied by the event, but for those of you bringing your own structure, it's really important that the structures are in good condition, that the roof and walls are free of tears and damage, that the little sort of Velcros or ties that connect the walls to the frame and the roof to the frame are in good condition, not pulling away, not missing. If you're doing cooking inside of a structure, that it has the appropriate flooring in the right locations, and that you have the correct walls open should there be any cooking activity inside. Energy Safe have released a really fantastic new guide as to gas safety at public events. It has fantastic diagrams and things within it to make it really easy to understand, but they require a certain amount of walling to be open if you've got sort of gas cooking or barbecuing within your structure to make sure that it is safe. It also designates, and I think I've got some nice pictures here. Yes, so that's an indication of the amount of walling you might need open for your various types of cooking. And also the distance that appliances need to be from the wall or from the roof or the wall, so that those combustible surfaces, because sometimes those elements, even if they are naturally fire retardant, they can catch fire. So we want to make sure that things like gas appliances and cooking surfaces that get really hot are away from your walls, because even if they don't catch on fire, they might melt and get a hole. And that would be very sad if you'd spent a whole bunch of money on your beautiful structure. Electrical safety is also a really important one for us. We'll be paying particularly close eye to if you've got your own extension cords, power boards, all of those sorts of things. They must be in good working condition. They must not have little fraying wires popping out everywhere. They need to have a current test tag. If we see cables or power boards, any kind of electrical equipment, appliances where you can literally see all the wires popping out the back, vent plugs, that sort of thing, we will decommission them and we will not permit you to use them. The safety officers keeping a really close eye on this sort of thing because that is often where a fire does start. And with the volume of people we've got in a relatively contained area, we want to see 0 fires and 0 electrical issues on the day. The other thing that often happens is, particularly where you've got supplied power, equipment that is not in good working condition can be the thing that keeps tripping the power. So you can end up tripping the power for all of your neighbour vendors as well. And that will make you very unpopular amongst all of your neighbours if you've got equipment that is tripping out the power. So make sure that everything's in really great working condition and has a current test tag. Here is a picture of a test tag. We will obviously have cable ramp and that sort of thing for any of the Sydney Road Street Party installed cable runs and power runs external to your sites. But I really encourage you to make sure that you've got appropriate, I'll just see if I've got a little picture on the next page and I'll just go back, that you've got your own ramps, rubber sort of flooring, any kind of covers. If you've got to run cabling, ideally it's running sort of behind tables and behind appliances and kept out of any kind of tripping sort of area. But if you do need to have any cords that run across for the particulars of your setup, make sure those are covered by really good quality non-slip flooring or cable ramps, because you definitely don't want to be carrying a bunch of hot food and then trip over a cable and spill all your beautiful food and burn your hands. That would be very sad. Hand washing and sullage, again, public health will be paying really close attention to make sure that you've got all of the elements of food safety in really good nick in your stalls, that you have the appropriate sort of cooling and heating equipment at the correct temperatures for storing food, but also that you've got adequate hand washing with warm water, soap and sullage, so a storage facility for your grey water, for the water from hand washing, but also any other kind of washing that you need to do within your stalls. We do not have a wastewater disposal point, so it's important that you collect and take your wastewater off-site. And if we see any stalls that are running wastewater that can go into storm drains and things, you will be decommissioned and shut down immediately. So really make sure that you've got all your sullage under control. Severe weather can be a really big one for us across the summer. You will have all noticed that we can go from 42 degrees to 12 degrees the next day, to the next day it's 33 and humid, and the following day it's rainy and windy. So we're obviously monitoring weather in the lead up to the event. And if the weather reaches a point where, for example, we've got really proximate lightning, we've got significant winds, those sorts of things, the instruction will come from the ECC down to all personnel to make safe, and we might temporarily pause the event. For all of you, making safe is ensuring that you can turn off power and appliances, turning off gas. If you've got food that is cooking, to remove that from cooking, temporarily cease service to patrons. If we go into a shutdown mode and we see people still trading, I will be very displeased. So really important to follow those instructions from wardens and stallholder liaisons to make safe any equipment around your stall. So things like banners, signage, A-frames, anything that's external to your stall that could create a hazard if it was caught in wind, to make safe all of those elements, and then to stand by until given further instruction from the ECC. We'll have checklists for all of you on the day. Our safety officer will be conducting checklist checks to make sure that everyone's doing their checklist. So just making sure that you have everything set up correctly, that you don't have any sort of rubbish or additional stock. One of the things, because we've got actionable, usable footpaths behind all of our stalls up and down Sydney Road, we don't want to see boxes of cups, boxes of rolls, extra sort of stock for your stall sitting on the footpath behind you. So make sure that you keep to the perimeter of the requested stall size that you've sent through as part of your EOI, and that you have capacity within your structure or setup to store all of that extra stock. Making sure that there's no tripping hazards around your stall, that any hot surfaces are away from patrons. We have a huge amount of little kids that come to the event, so we want to make sure that none of those little kids can accidentally get into any sort of strife, and make sure that you do know what to do in the event of an emergency. It could be a really hot day, so one of the key things will be to ensure that if we do get to the point of, even sort of, 27, 28 degrees plus, As all of you would know, being in an enclosed space, particularly those of you who are cooking and creating heat, it can be 5-10 degrees hotter inside of your structure than it is actually out in the ambient temperature. So for those of you who might be exposed to sun, depending on the nature of your setup or how you're working, making sure that you're sun safe, sunscreen, a hat, appropriate clothing. But for your staff that are working inside your stalls, making sure that you've got a cooler with ice and water and plenty of water, Gatorade, those sorts of things for your staff that are working. If you've got the capacity to add cooling mechanisms to your setup, such as fans, that kind of thing, then we strongly encourage that because it can be a long day. I know a few of the people trading at the tennis on that 44-degree day were having staff wilting left, right, and centre. So making sure that you're set up to take care of your staff in hot weather is great. We have first aiders on site for the duration of the event, and we also have first aid trained personnel all through bump in and bump out. If it's a significant medical incident, such as somebody that is not breathing or not conscious, call 000 immediately. And then if you have the capacity, let the ECC know that you've done so, just so that we can, if we're in a road closure point, ensure that an ambulance can come in through the most appropriate emergency access point and be directed accordingly. If you have the capacity to deliver first aid until one of our first aiders can reach you, that would be great. But yeah, calling 000 is the really key thing. And we request you all to make sure you've got your own basic first aid kits with things like blue food safe band-aids and all of the elements that might be required for the sorts of small first aid requirements that might occur within a stall or a food outlet. That's me. Look forward to seeing you all in the day. Look forward to trying some delicious treats and snacks. I'm going to come hungry, I promise.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Emily. Really appreciate you going through all of this. I'm going to talk through the plastic-wise policy here at Merri-bek. Next slide, please. So as you're all aware, as part of the EOI process, we talk about our plastic-wise policy here at Merri-bek. So the following items are not allowed at the street party. So that's single-use plastic or compostable plastic cups, plates, bowls, cutlery, plastic-lined coffee cups without an exemption, including compostable, plastic straws, plastic takeaway containers and polystyrene, balloons and plastic bags, single-use water bottle, which is a big thing. We'll be monitoring that quite closely with our food and beverage stall holders as well. Just a reminder that no bottled water is to be sold as part of the event. Avoidable plastic packaging like cling wrap, plastic bags or similar. Single-use plastic bottle drinks where an alternative exists, for example, soft drink cans. And please use reusable event materials like promotional banners and flyers wherever possible. So as part of our plastic-wise policy, there is a caveat for those selling coffee or ice cream. So with coffee, we support people who bring their own reusable coffee cups. If using disposables, we ask customers if they really need a lid, obtain an exemption from council for single-use plastic-lined cups. And yes, the compostable cups will need an exemption too. Ice cream, just back, that's all right. So with ice cream, ensure you have wooden spoons, not plastic ones, and obtain an exemption from council for ice cream cups, as these are plastic lined. And yes, compostable ice cream cups will also need an exemption too. If you have any questions in relation to getting an exemption, please email the festivals at merri-bek.vic.gov.au and we can guide you through that process. So we have quite a comprehensive plastic-wise policy documentation that we can also send through as well as part of our EOI process, but we can also send it through if anyone would like a reminder of what you can and can't do in this festival setting. Thank you. I'm going to hand over now to Environmental Health, Elizabeth Pudney. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosie. So I'm with the environmental health team and we'll be inspecting food premises on the day. So this applies to any vendors that are selling food at the event. If we can have the next slide. So firstly, make sure that your food trader registration is renewed and that you've submitted a statement of trade for the event. So this applies to any mobile vans or temporary store holders that are coming in from outside to trade on Sydney Road. So there is a certain event ID that you can look for on Food Trader to lodge the statement of trade. So if you need any help with that, please reach out to the festivals team. There are some food premises that are doing an extension of trade. So when you're trading directly outside your shop, you do not require a food trader license, but you will require to meet the same structural requirements as a market stall, which we'll go through on the next slide. There is also a picture there on that slide that gives the overview. But I'll talk about the basic requirements. So having hand wash facilities, so a container of warm liquid with liquid soap and paper towel, and a container for wastewater to collect the dirty water, and also utensil washing facilities as well with warm water and a sanitizer to sanitize the food handling equipment once they're washed. So the event organizer is not responsible for providing the hand wash facilities. It's responsible for every business to provide their own, including the businesses that are doing an extension of trade outside the front of their shop. The hand washing inside the shop won't be sufficient. You'll need to have an extra one on the stall outside. Next slide, please. Just with the food safety practices, ensure all your high-risk food is kept at appropriate temperatures. So cold food must be kept below 5 degrees. So within refrigerated cool rooms or within an esky with ice. Hot food must be stored above 60 degrees in a hot holding unit or bain-marie, and frozen foods at like rock solid temperatures, so usually around -15 degrees. And it's important to have your probe thermometer with you, or temperature measuring device, so you can check the temperature of those units. Next slide, please. So we will be inspecting on the day to confirm that the key requirements are met. So all food on display must be protected, so within containers or display cases or covered to protect from contamination from dust or people or anything that might get into the food. We'll be checking for that temperature control, and we'll be checking ourselves for the eskies and the cool rooms. We'll be checking the hand washing facilities and making sure that there's a digital probe thermometer available, a food grade sanitizer with a spray bottle to apply it, and checking the marquee is adequate. So floors, walls and ceilings, and the number of walls according to your electrical cooking requirements. So I don't know if you want to speak to this, Rosie?
Yes, yeah,
Thanks.
I'm happy to speak to it. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Appreciate you stepping in. So just the last bit of this presentation today is outstanding PLIs and statements of trade. I'm sure many of you have heard from us multiple times via email in relation to outstanding documentation, as that is a requirement to trade as part of the event. So for those who have not done so already, please send your public liability insurance of 20 million and food trader statement of trade to us at the festivals at merri-bek.vic.gov.au email as soon as possible. As I said, it's a requirement that we get that information prior to event delivery. If you have any questions in regards to your invoice or payment related issues, please also email us at the same email account, and we'll get back to you as soon as we possibly can. And as Tennille mentioned before, so for any inquiries related to production and event details, please contact Tennille at the below email address and phone number.
Sorry, Rosie, I just put my correct phone number there. That's not the right one, sorry.
No worries, that's all right. We'll amend this before we send it out to everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you everyone for sitting through that. Now we're opening the floor to anyone that might have a question. You're welcome to raise your hand and we'll unmute you so that you can ask the question, or alternatively, if you prefer to pop it into the chat, I know that people have already been doing that, but please pop your question in the chat and one of us in the team will do our best to answer your question.
I can answer Cameron's question there. If we have a business on Sydney Road, will our store be located outside it? Yes. Where possible, I try to put it slightly to the left or right of your shop front so that you still have access to your shop front and that's visible from the street. But yes, there are a few exceptions to that rule, but unless you've been contacted about that, then yes, you will be out the front of your usual trading shop.
Just a question in relation to where the marquee is three-sided covered as in the picture. So if you are hiring a marquee from us, then yes, there will be coming with walls. All marquees that are hired from us will be a walled marquee.
There was a few questions just in the chat, which I think I answered, but anybody that has hired a marquee, they will be in place at your site allocation prior to 7 a.m. on your arrival, and you do not need to worry about any sort of pack up or bump out of that marquee. Our suppliers will come along from 8 p.m. and pack them all up, including the weights. So yeah, just reiterating that if you have hired a marquee, you have the correct weights as part of that marquee. You have 3 walls and they will be installed and packed down by the supplier.
You have a raised hand. Let me just unmute you, Lewis, one moment.
Just to clarify, I have a business on Sydney Road and I'll be obviously trading out the front of my store. I'm not running any kind of food stall. It's like a regular market stall. Will I also have a walled marquee which would then cover the entrance to my shop?
Sorry, can I just clarify, have you hired a marquee or are you bringing your own marquee?
I selected the higher option.
Yeah, so your marquee will be at the front of your usual trading space, and it will have the required wall. Sorry, was that your question?
Yeah, but I'm not trading a food stall, so I don't require a wall. Will mine also be walled?
Yeah, they'll come with 3 walls and just one, but it's up to you if you want to remove the walls, that's fine. Some sites will be next to someone else, but some are on a corner, so you can have access to sort of 2 frontages at the front and the side.
Thank you.
Now, I see another hand up in the chat. Zulun, sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly.
Yeah, that's right. I just wondering, Rosie, I probably sent you an email yesterday. I asked the questions. I know that we can't put any sign on the external wall of the marquee that we hired, but how about internal? Can we also put on a wall and then include our design and do adjustment as we need it?
Provided it doesn't interfere with the structural integrity and the engineer sign-off of the marquee. If it's like a standalone display within the walls of the marquee, I believe that's fine, but I can also respond to your email and we can take that offline and go from there for you as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
No worries. there's a few more questions coming up in the chat.
I'll just answer to the bump-in window of 7 to 11. Generally, we ask that food vendors, anybody with a food truck or a trailer arrives in at a certain time, that will be all sent to you in the documentation. For others, it's up to you. If you have a really quick setup and if your marquee is a hired marquee already in place, obviously it's a much quicker setup for you. It's up to you. Obviously, just allow yourself enough time. We do find that we do have public coming earlier than our setup of 12 o'clock. So if you're set up and open to trade, if you are an artisan stall, then you're welcome to trade. But yeah, food vendors, we definitely do have a window that we ask. So not sure the question if that is a food vendor, but yeah.
Just a question in relation to permits required for parking for stall holders. We don't have a designated stallholder parking area outside of the road closure. So as Tennille mentioned before, that entry is either from the north or south to bump in your stall and to bump out the stall, but we don't have a permitted area for stallholders for parking off-site, unfortunately.
Just answering Millicent's question about the business having an alley near the Sparkly Bear stage. When you get the site plan, you'll be able to see where all the road closures are, and that should definitely clarify what access you will have. But I believe you will have access to the rear of your business.
Our resident letter notification for this event also went out last week, which included a detailed road closure map, which is just a new addition from our previous resident letter notifications. So those businesses on Sydney Road should have received that letter by now. There's also another letter, the same letter going out in another week's time, just to reiterate that information with regards to road closures.
Just to answer, sorry, I just saw a question. Wendy's question, can we have a trestle table at the front and back of our stall? Your stall will be on the road, your marquee will be on the road. So we do need access behind your marquee, which is the normal pedestrian footpath on Sydney Road. So you won't be able to place a trestle table behind it. Basically, you will have your 3x3 marquee that is you're able to utilize for any trestle tables or yeah, any stock in there. Hope that clarifies that.
Just a question in relation to the stallholder location. I know Tennille's covered this off, but I'll just reiterate that information is coming in the next couple of weeks, and it will be sent from Tennille directly. So keep an eye out in the coming weeks for that information regarding stall allocation and location.
Yes, Wendy, anywhere inside the 3x3 marquee is fine. You can remove side walls or back walls if you wish. That's not a problem.
We can see a couple of questions that might have been missed, so I'll pose them for others to answer. Are plastic can holders allowed?
Plastic can holders. Can I get some more information on plastic can holders?
EBV venue.
We can share the plastic wise policy, but I'm confident that that would be a no, as it's a single-use plastic from my understanding of a plastic can holder. But also happy to take that offline and we can go from there. Yes, you can sell cans.
Another one for Brent has asked if there will be water available for dogs along the route, or should vendors help with that?
It's a great question. We do have many, many doggos that come along to Sydney Road Street Party. I know that there is a few points along the street that there are water options for dogs, and we do encourage owners to bring their own water for their puppies. But if that's something that you would like to do, then I don't have an issue with that.
I'm not
Got a
sure if
raised
you've
hand there,
seen-
Rosie.
While you do that, there's one that says in the bump-in window of 7 and 11, will we be given a specific time within that window, or can they just turn up as long as it's within that bracket?
Yeah, so I referred to that before, just letting you know that there will be food vendors will be given a specific time. Anybody else is available to come at a window that will be sent to them. And it's quite a wide window. It obviously you just need to make sure that you arrive in time to be able to set up and remove your car by 11 a.m.
Question from Bark Road, Brent. I think if you unmute yourself, you can speak.
Oh, thanks. Hey.
Hello.
Hello. I guess I raised that question because like I've done like a few of these street parades before. And I've been asked to like not donate water if that makes sense, but I've been asked to like I guess donate water at the same time. So I'm happy to like donate water if we need to like make sure that I know there's loads of dogs that go here. So I'm happy to like fulfill that space if we haven't got enough water because I do have the containers to like to do that. So I'm happy to facilitate that if that's something that Merri-bek needs as well.
It's definitely not a requirement. We have plenty of water along the street. We bring in additional water bubblers and water stations across the event, and there is that expectation that dog owners should bring water or a container for easy access for their dog to be able to drink. So definitely not. We wouldn't ask that of you directly. It's only if you were wanting to put a water bowl out the front of your marquee. But
Okay.
Definitely
Cool.
not something that I would ask directly of you.
No, cool. Easy as. Thanks.
Question in relation to A-frames or sign stands directly in front of your store. So A-frames need to be confined to the 3x3 space allocated as part of your marquee.
And yes, there can be something attached inside your marquee. I see there, Emily. You can attach inside.
I think we have answered all of the questions in the chat, but if there is something that we have not covered, please take this opportunity to put it in the chat now and we can answer it for you. Awesome. Well, if there's no other questions, we might leave it there.